got an exclusive. Is Tory Lanez about to walk from some of these charges? Or what's happening? It's Lauren Rosa, and let's get on into the latest. We talked a lot about Tory Lanez and the hearing, the appeals hearing that his team recently had. This went down on Monday, so this went down earlier, top of this week. And in the hearing, which lasted for some time, the arguments are very detailed. But I watched the hearing, so I watched Tory Lanez's attorney, who is working with Caesar and Mitchell McDowell, who are the CEO and co-founders of Unite the People, which is the legal team that has been working with Tory Lanez. And y'all remember, Tory Lanez has switched lawyers. He's went from Sean Hawley, and then he went to a second legal team, and now he has been working for some time though, but he has been working with Unite the People. So Laura L. Capero stood before a panel of 3 judges. Now, these 3 judges, all women, one judge is a Black woman, heard Laura, who is, up here for Tory Lanez. They also got to hear arguments in rebuttal of what Tory Lanez's team is claiming was done unfairly to him. So just to summarize it really quickly, Tory Lanez's team have submitted 2 petitions already to courts. And these petitions involved, they were asking if they're able to enter completely new evidence, and a court said no. They were also asking for just a completely new sentence, and a judge said no. Now, this is the big conversation, though. Like, this is the big boy. This is the one that will determine whether or not Tory Lanez gets to walk or gets to retry some of the issues or the things or the errors that his team is claiming went down in the original Meg Thee Stallion case all that time ago after that house pool party that they went to with Kylie Jenner. So they're claiming, number one, that there's DNA evidence that was withheld and that, Tory Lanez's team did not get in time enough to respond to. They're also alleging that Kelsey's testimony and the way that they did not get to question Kelsey and investigate her claims in a certain amount of time are just, they're saying it's unconstitutional. So it's something called use immunity. And I've spoken to Tory Lanez's legal team. And from what they're explaining to me, their whole point is that at one point, Kelsey was, she was able to be questioned and all the things. Then she gets on the stand once she decides to testify, and she's given immunity. Not only is she given immunity for the testimony, but she's also able to plead the fifth when it comes to anybody being able to ask her different questions. So Tory Lanez's team is saying, look, that made her unavailable to us. And based on the Constitution, that's just not right. Now, they're also saying here that because of, there's 11 different things that they have dissected and broke apart and decided to, present in front of this panel of judges. But of the 11, so after speaking to Caesar McDowell, who is one of the co-founders of Unite the People, which again is Tory Lanez's team, legal team, so he is leading Tory Lanez's legal team, McDowell actually tells me that of the full 11 things, he believes strongly, like he will say 100% that Tory Lanez will be granted at least 2 to 3 of the issues that they are asking for the judge to see. And when I say granted, that means either out of 2 to 3 of these things, a judge will either fully exonerate Tory Lanez or a judge will allow for a new trial to happen. Now, this is according to head of Unite the People, Caesar McDowell. He says to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, he believes that between 2 or 3 of these things, specifically the things I mentioned, the conversation about the DNA, the conversation about Kelsey's testimony and how they allege that, just based on the Constitution, Tory's rights were violated. Tory will either be exonerated and get to walk, or he will be allowed to retry these different errors of these conversations that they're bringing up. And that is a strong statement. And I asked him, I said, are you for sure that I can say that? Like, because let's just be honest here, y'all. Tory Lanez has been at this fight for some time now. This is not a new, Tory Lanez just woke up last week and said, hey, I want to fight and try and get out of here and trying to get out. Tory Lanez has been fighting since the moment he was convicted. He's been convicted. He's facing 10 years behind bars because of the alleged shooting of, or I mean, I don't gotta say alleged because he was convicted. He was found guilty of the shooting of Meg Thee Stallion. Now I won't go into too much detail about everything that they're alleging, you know, was done wrong, because we did talk about this briefly in the Breakfast Club, but I do want to give you guys an update exclusively after talking to Caesar McDowell. So I also asked him, how does Tory Lanez think that yesterday's big appeal hearing went? He told me that he believes Tory Lanez believes that this went well, that actually everybody in their legal camp believes yesterday went well. Now, I watched the full hearing, and I'm not going to, lie to you guys the same way. So, yeah, they had their points, and they presented a lot of information to Tory Lanez's team, but at the same time, the other side shot right back with the same amount of, here's evidence, here's information, here's what they could have done. And there was a bit of a rebuttal after that. So Tory Lanez's attorney, Laura, she got back up after, those arguing for Meg Thee Stallion, or those arguing in favor to keep Tory Lanez in jail, sat back down, and, she just refuted the things that came back up. And we can take a listen to that.
We also likely did not get fingerprint evidence on time. We did not get, and the fingerprint evidence actually showed that Mr. Peterson's fingerprints, were not found on that weapon. Currently, we are attempting at the Superior Court to have them run the serial number to identify the owner of the weapon, which was not done.
This argument is nothing different than what we've heard in various different ways. I know that there was a letter sent over to the judge a while back, and this was around the time when Tory Lanez decided that he didn't want to work with Sean Hawley anymore, who is a famed attorney who was representing him. And he mentioned, just different things that he alleges weren't allotted to him. Tory Lanez has had to have, or has tried to have, the conversation about the DNA for some time now as well. These are not new arguments whatsoever. So to hear that Tory Lanez thinks that this went well, to hear Caesar McDowell say, we are for certain that at least 2 to 3 of these things will be granted, that is a big statement. Now, I did ask him, if these things are granted, what happens right away? And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is not the appeals conversation where, it's just one thing that they're deciding on. So a lot of people are confused as well, because the other 2 petitions that that we've been talking about with Tory Lanez that were not granted, once those things were taken off the table, people thought that Tory Lanez's ability to appeal in general was just done. Those were one issue conversations. So they were only asking and requesting one thing. Hey, can we please submit new evidence? No. Hey, can we please have a conversation about a different sentence? No. This big conversation right here, there are 11 different things that they're saying hey about. So this is the big one. Now, I did ask as well, because I have been reading, and from what I read, this could take up to 90 days to make a full decision about, for that panel of judges, the 3 judges, to come back and say, hey, we have our decision, and go through their, breakdown of what their decisions are on each of the 11 things. And from what I was told by Caesar McDowell, Tory Lanez's legal team are all very confident that they'll hear back way less than 90 days, that they'll actually hear back in max 60 days. And to be honest with you, it sounds like they think that it could even be a little bit sooner than that, because that's just how confident they are and how they presented with their arguments, or the errors that they're alleging that were made in trial when Tory Lanez was convicted. Now, again, this is one of those things where, any attorney that you ask is going to tell you that somebody like a Tory Lanez in a position he's in, because people keep saying, why is he wasting money on attorneys? Why is he wasting his time on attorneys? Why is he wasting his time, money, energy on even thinking that anything will be overturned, that he'll be able to come home, the evidence was there? Anybody's going to tell you, if you're in a position like Tory Lanez is in, you just fight until you can't fight anymore. You try and bring things to people's attention in all the ways that you can. And again, these are not new arguments. I think people are paying more attention now because Tory Lanez has, official documents in court asking for these things to be paid attention to. But since the moment he was convicted, this man has been saying he did not do it. Now, I don't know how y'all feel. Y'all got to let me know in the comments. Please take it to the streets and the tweets. Do y'all feel like Tory Lanez has a shot? And surprisingly enough, you know, the tides change. Y'all know how people get. It's like 1 minute y'all feel one way, the next minute y'all feel another. Because I remember when, you know, all of this first kicked off and the verdict came down, and, you know, you had so many people having the different conversations, and, you know, different celebrities coming out in support of Tory or in support of Megan and blah, blah, blah. People were very clear what side they stood on. People feeling like he shot her were very, very loud. People who've, i.e., you know, there was a lot of people on the other side. And this is what Megan Thee Stallion talks about a lot, and also has had to put orders in court about a lot. There are a lot of people on the opposite side that are saying Meg Thee Stallion, or that are alleging that Meg Thee Stallion is lying about who shot her and does not know who shot her. I want to know how y'all feel. You know, again, with Caesar McDowell, the head of Unite the People, who was leading Tory Lanez's legal strategy, for him to say to me that they believe that at least 2 to 3 of these major topics will be granted in Tory's favor, meaning he could either be retried or he could completely walk. That is a huge statement. Take it to the streets, take it to the tweets. Let me know what y'all think. Does Tory Lanez walk on any of these charges? After listening to what you guys listened to today, what was presented, I want to know.